Hello and welcome to Rockford Common in the New Forest. I'm here today to do some scouting because I desperately want to shoot some heather whilst it's in season. But looking at this area, to be honest with you, I think it might be quite interesting in autumn too. I mean, look at the potential for this in a couple of months' time. Give it a nice touch of autumn colour and that could be quite interesting. Mental note. Now, Roxley Common, as well as Ibsley Common, which is opposite it, are actually just two of the areas, or very few areas, that you are going to have high ground in the New Forest. Now, what that means is they should be able to get some nice views, particularly if there's some mist in the morning, which, knowing my luck, there won't be. But I'm here for one main reason, and this is it. Heather and bell heather.
Rockford Common is on the west border of the New Forest National Park, the smallest national park in England. Home to approximately 34,000 people, it has ancient woodland, a small coastline and swathes of heathland, which is actually what I'm here for.
This is exactly what I was looking for. I've got to find some good compositions and hopefully tomorrow morning there'll be a bit of mist, but this is what I'm looking for.
You'll often find more than one type of heather coexisting. The darker one is bell heather, which actually is visually more striking.
So what I'm trying to do is be canny for once and scout with one camera only, no tripod, nothing else, just so I can get some test shots so that when I come back in the morning, hopefully I know where the heck I'm going. What I'm looking for really, I think, is the gorgeous purpleness, maybe a lone tree or something, and some ferns.
Well, the heathlands of the New Forest certainly have these in abundance, and this year the heather seems to be about 2 weeks earlier than normal, and in fact in some places you can even see that it's going over in patches. Everywhere I looked I just saw potential scenes for autumn. If I do come back, the trick's going to be trying to find compositions so I don't end up with a blown out sky.
Now this appears to be the area where they take a lot of shots. Mist is going to be what makes it. And I don't like my chances, even though when I left this morning the weather forecast was quite, yeah, you're going to get some, honey.
Let the scouting begin. It's amazing what you actually notice when you stop and look through a lens.
I'm really liking that twist in the trunk of that tree. So when I'm doing test shots, what I'm finding is that it's quite difficult to balance the scene with the sky, with its patches of storminess going through, and then these lovely purples and greens. So that's going to be a challenge. Walking down off Rockford, you've got a road down the bottom and somewhere a little river, and then you go up to Ibsley. So two high points that aren't very common in the New Forest, and in theory ones where right conditions could be quite sublime. Now getting to be what I'm guessing is a delineation between the two commons, the wet bit.
It's worth noting that I could not find Ibsley Common on Google Maps. I had to go to Ordnance Survey to really work out where the heck it was. Meandering through Ibsley Common was lovely, fairly similar to Rockford, although every now and then you get really intense pockets of colour, which were just glorious to see.
The bees are amazing. Look at the strength of colour. This is normally about 2 weeks later in August. This is quite a bit of a difference that we're seeing this year. It's so humid. It's ridiculous. Well, I confess I'm extremely pleased that I decided to come and scout here today. If I'd have come in the morning, even if there is a mist, I'd have found it really tricky to find a few places to shoot. It's vast, it's beautiful, but there's lots of places that are a bit inaccessible. So you've got to stick to your main paths and perhaps dive off by about 10 metres into some subsidiary paths that are opened up where you just get these beautiful vistas of purpleness.
With our scouting complete, it was time to go and check in at our campsite and prepare ourselves for the next morning's explorations.
There is not a hint of mist. This is my concept. A couple of trees, lots of purple, and a road. God, life couldn't get more exciting than that. In the absence of mist, the idea is that the sun comes up sort of just over there and it backlights the beautiful heather and gives it a little bit of a glow. That's the theory. We're also battling a little bit the midges, not in the Scottish sense of, but a little bit the midges.
My apologies to anybody of a sensitive nature for this scene of midge demise.
I just need the sun that's popped up over there to actually do some lighting of the heather. Well, my camera has just failed. I can't focus. I can't do anything. It's not even showing me the playback. So I've had to borrow Nigel's, which is very kind of him to lend it to me. At last, I've got the light hitting this heather, so hopefully I'll be able to get something interesting. Let's get a reference shot so I know where the beginning is, and then I can just go and do a 4-shot focus stack. Taking 3 shots. 1 for the foreground here, so that's in focus. 1 for the midground here, that's in focus. 1 for the background. You sort that out in Photoshop. Now, there are a couple of places that are known for heather in West Sussex. They're not quite to this scale, but I think it might be worth exploring those in the next couple of mornings. So over to future me, who hopefully will be a little bit more inspired than I am here today. It's beautiful, I'm just not capturing it because the light is fantastic but sporadic and my camera keeps dying. Well, I've done a bit of research and I probably didn't need to go to the New Forest, though it was very, very lovely to go and get my heather. Here we've got fir trees in the background, but actually just in front of those, in certain places, we've got nice stands of silver birches, which give the contrast in foliage. Now in this area, there's a lot of dead stuff as well, and I've seen this in several places where I've visited in West Sussex. We didn't see that in the New Forest. So the issue was that this morning, and when I was in the New Forest, I was picking out scenes, but we had an awful lot of sky in them. And what I'm ideally looking for is the ability to not have as much sky. If I can eradicate it totally, that would be fantastic. Morning. I've returned to my location with my mate Ben. I've got to be honest with you. Oh God, pretty tricky to get out of bed this morning. Never mind. So what I'm trying to do is eradicate skies. So I've put on a longer lens, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to encapsulate the scenes with as little sky as possible, for the simple reason that it just is far too contrasty, and that's problematic. So I'm just making my way up and down the side paths, just trying to work out what I can eradicate. I think it's as important to eradicate stuff from this scene as it is to actually include stuff. I was really hoping to get the birches a little bit more than I can do at the moment, simply because we've got these things in the way here, some of these sort of new trees that are coming along, and it's not terribly helpful. But there are certain scenes, rather like this here, where I've got a nice lot of heather in the foreground, I've got my birches on the left, I've got my trees on the right, my pines on the right, and it may work. The problem I've got is in the background there's kind of a scout hut type thing, which I really don't want to get into my shot.
Whilst exploring this path and shooting stuff, I decided that those tree roots were far too dominant and I needed not to shoot from here. So I trundled to the opposite end of the path and I shot into this scene. The path was clearer and actually the heather was more dominant.
So what I'm finding here is when I am using the longer lens, yes, I'm compressing the scene, but I'm also eradicating a lot of rubbish I don't necessarily want. You're starting to see it creeping on the bottom left of that screen here. But as soon as you start going in, you're really starting to refine the composition. It makes quite a bit of difference. Quite liking the concept of this shot here. The problem I've got is that actually it's really right heavy. So the scene itself, you've got quite a lot of the big trees on the right hand side, you've got the path coming in, you've got a little bit, not too much of the purple. You can actually see the silver birches, which is quite good. But I think it's a bit one-sided. So thank you for joining me amongst the beautiful heather in lovely surroundings. Wherever I am next time, I look forward to taking you with me. Goodbye.